and I'm Marsali with the Internet Keep Safe Coalition, and we focus on creating a healthy environment, a digital environment for all youth and families connected to the digital environment. And when we look at what the digital world means to youth today, they connect with technology in a way that's different than I do, because for me it's a tool and I'll always see it as an efficiency tool. But for kids, they define their relationships and they emotionally connect through the digital devices. So between their texting pieces, through their instant messaging, through their Facebook posts and their status, the things they share, their gaming communities, they actually build their relationships and they sustain their relationships. So it's very helpful for us as the adults around them to create a network of support, to understand the impact the digital space has on them emotionally, physically, psychologically, and then within context of this month's focus on preventing the damage from porn is looking at how can we create a network of support and a culture and environment where kids can talk to us and share with us their experience. We can do our best to prevent their access, but that's not going to solve it in the digital world today, where there are so many points of access and someone else's home or someone else's school or with someone else's device. So having some strategies around pornography and then creating a support structure for them so they don't have the guilt and shame when they do access it and it's a problem for them. You want them to be able to come to us. So I'm going to cover 4 topics tonight. What we need to know about youth in the digital age, what parents need to know, strategies for schools, and how we can keep current. So how can we keep up to date, and what are the things that we need to do? First of all, we talked a little bit already about how the kids will connect with digital devices in a way that's very different. And if we fail to recognize that piece, then we're not a part of those very important experiences where kids are making those connections from many levels, girls and boys, girls and girls, guys and guys, the types of friendships that we want them to have that are healthy and well, that's going to play out in how they're communicating with their digital devices. And unlike the days of old when, the stupid things that we did in high school or in college, nobody knows them, my kids will never know them, but in the digital age, it will follow them forever. So the types of things they post, the things that they create about themselves, the images they share, they're going to impact their life, and particularly their future academic and their employment opportunities. So helping them to think through what happens when I post, what happens when I view, how is it connected to me, how does it impact me? Those are all things that are incredibly important for us. So I always like to throw out in my vision stream, how would I define success? So when it comes to kids and the internet and all the different ways that they can connect to it, I want my child and the students around me to be ethical, responsible, and resilient. And that is going to take several components to have those pieces fit together. So to be ethical, they have to know how I feel about all types of content, not just pornography, but how I feel about violence and about gaming environments, anorexia, hate speech, but really particularly that very hard line about how do I feel about pornography. It's how it portrays women, how it monetizes sexualization, what it does for the overall health and relationships of families. I want my children to hear that from me. And in schools, I want to create an expectation that if something's really going wrong, or particularly if images are being passed via mobile devices, it's called sexting, but those images, because they're minors, it's illegal. And for kids to have them or to share them creates a serious problem for them, particularly if then they're arrested for possession or distribution of child pornography. That's a big deal. So I want my family, I want my students to talk about these things within the ethical framework. I want them to be responsible and take responsibility for the types of media that they ingest, what types they share, what types they take in, and then I want to help them to be resilient. So what can I do to help the children around me and the youth around me to know that there's going to be things that are painful and tricky, but I don't want them to break. I want for them to be resilient, and that means that there's support for them. The youth who feel all alone, they're totally isolated, they're having internet addiction issues, not just pornography, but also gaming. Sometimes it's hyper texters or hyper Facebook, social networkers. Any of these can be very disruptive for a good, healthy adolescence. So I want to build resiliency skills. So from a parent's perspective, and we'll do schools in a little bit, from a parent's perspective, there's 3 evergreen concepts that are going to help make this manageable for you. So sometimes when we look at all the different types of devices, as a parent, I can just feel all this technology flushing over my family, and I can feel like I'm almost, standing in one place and the winds of a hurricane are blowing over me. But actually, there's just 3 basic concepts that I need to have with each of the devices. So anything that can connect to the web. And these are the 3 concepts. To keep current. So understand the technology that your children are using, and then to keep communicating. And one of the most helpful things that you can do with your child is to start communications about the digital world. And it's much easier to start these conversations before your child has viewed a lot of pornography or heard about a lot of pornography or done a lot of video gaming. It's much easier to start these when they're 4 or 3 or 2, when they want to play with the iPad or the iPhone, or when they're 5 and they're just starting to play some online games, and 6. So it's never too early to start communicating, and you communicate often and regularly about everything they do on the internet. Then when something happens to them that's traumatic or challenging, the communication's already 2-way. So it puts you on the friend side or the support side rather than the adversary side, or I don't want to get in trouble, so I'm not going to talk to mom. The last is to keep checking. So we had keep current, we had keep communicating, then we have keep checking. Now, I like to use the word checking. Some parents worry that spying on their child, spying does not build trust. And I agree that there is a place to respect children's privacy, but it's only where you can provide it. So there is this false sense that a child's online activity is private, but the internet is never private. You can never guarantee ever that what you have posted or what you have viewed or the connections you have made through your IP address of your computer has not been tracked and stored. Anything you've posted can be cached and tracked and stored on any machine that has viewed it and then made available globally to the World Wide Web. So where you can provide privacy, so I don't listen in on my children's phone calls. I don't put my head on the door when they have friends over and they're in their room. I recognize that if they have a book, one of those little diaries with a little keychain, chain that they lock it, I don't flip through those pages because those are private. They're under the bed. But everything done in the digital environment actually is tracked and stored by your IP address through your carrier, your internet service. It's tracked by advertisers, your web browser folks. They understand where you're going. Everything you click and open can be tracked and traced on your machine. So for kids to feel like it's their private world sets them up for failure because they have this expectation, well, no, I'm just talking to my friend, or I just created this video just for, the 2 of us, or just for this group of friends to view. And then when it's out to the global web and it's illegal or problematic or really dings their reputation, then they have to live with the consequences literally forever. So keep checking. When you check, then your child gets the actual perception of what's reality, which is the internet is a public forum, and it's going to, it can follow you, and it will follow you. So first, keep current, keep communicating, and keep checking. That's the 3rd. I have some great videos I was hoping I'd be able to show, but then when I found it was only live webcast, I felt very sorry for you that you'd only hear my voice. So if you go to iKeepSafe.org, we are posting it on our blog, and you'll be able to see some short video clips done by Dr. Michael Rich at the Center for Media and Child Health at Harvard and Boston's Hospital Children's Hospital Boston about pornography, and some really good thinking around it. I highly recommend it. There's also some clips that will help you put in context through the medical community some ways to help talk about pornography with kids. So you can find them on the website. Keeping current is tricky for parents because I don't know if you've noticed, but every 3 months there seems to be some either new gadget or some new app or some new feature that the gadget does, or even some totally new platform or new technology that I never imagined that now has mainstreamed through our high school. So keeping current is one of the challenges that you actually can resolve talking to your own children, because it's amazing to me how much they want to show you things that they like to do. They're not going to show you everything, but you can start that process of communication back and forth between the types of creative things they like to do and the types of games they like to play, that type of thing. So we've started that, actually it launches on the 15th of November. It's called iKeepCurrent.org, that iKeepCurrent. Every week we'll take something that happened in the news around the digital environment and create curricula and a parent message and some professional development specifically about that piece. So the first lesson that's out, when we get it started, each of the news pieces will be really quite close, but we had to come up with the first two to send to the web developers. So the first one is about a young man who takes a password and hacks into someone's Facebook account, and then he sends messages out for her, and they were sexualized messages. So now he's been arrested and convicted of identity theft and impersonation because of the types of things that happened when he hacked into this Facebook account. Kids have their Facebook hacked by friends and frenemies all the time, but not very many recognize that impact. So every week we'll take a story like this one and then bring a message into the schools and that you can use at home that helps you to keep current. And these are designed to be conversation starters and help you to be relevant around all the topics of digital citizenship. So that's going to be at iKeepCurrent.org. There's three, I call them the 3 R's for managing your digital interactions. And there's 3 big components that we want each of our children to recognize, and also, as adults, sometimes we miss the memo about these 3. One is to manage and create positive relationships. The second is to build a positive reputation. And the third is to build resiliency. And I'm going to talk about some specific resiliency things in a moment. But the first is about relationships. You can have online some healthy relationships that can help you overcome addictions, help you approach learning new things, can provide a support structure for healthy lifestyles and healthy habits. But because it's the web and you have on one side all things positive and support for positive, you also have many things that are very dark and traumatic and hurtful and harmful and potentially dangerous and or sometimes illegal. And pornography for me fits in this, especially for children and their developing minds. And we don't want to have our children learn healthy sexual relationships from pornography. Particularly, so much of the pornography on the web is seriously violent and often violence towards women in a way that creates a set of expectations for young men and for women that is completely unhealthy. So when we look at relationships in the web, we want to be a part of our children's interaction in the digital space. We don't want them to think we're surprised by something. We want to be the calm, the rational. Something that's helpful for us to know is that kids will often suffer in silence and not report really hurtful things just because they would rather not be cut off from the web totally. And if you put in context that they're going to connect emotionally through these connected devices, for them to be grabbed off and unplugged totally means they don't know where their friends are going. There's not that after the event Facebook let's reprocess that event. It pulls them from their own emotional support structure in a way that often they would suffer in silence. So here's an example. 2 cases very similar like this, and it happened both of them with young men. And young men are less likely to talk about issues on the web than young women. So these are both young men. They were groomed into sending pornography images of themselves and video. So they're acting out some unhealthy sexual activity via the web. Now they think they've sent these to this beautiful young girl that says, oh yeah, I met you here and we met at this event, and they know lots of this person impersonating the girl knew so much about them. Well, it was actually someone they already knew offline, and he was a sexual predator and had groomed them. But in the process, what he did, he tricked them into sending these videos because this girl, supposedly on the social networking site, said, well, I'll send you videos of me doing ABC if you send me videos of doing X, Y, and Z. So the young men send the videos doing X, Y, and Z. Then comes back the message, oh, by the way, I'm so-and-so, you know me. In one of the cases, I'm a teacher at your school, and if you don't have sex with me, I'm going to send these videos live, and I'm going to ruin your life. And there were so many victims. The tragedy is it was young man after young man after young man after young man. And he was never caught by someone. This was a case in Virginia. He was never caught by one of the victims. It was a random sting operation that snagged him. And when they had his machine, and they took the machine in to do the investigative images, they take a mirror copy. They saw the youth in their own community. They knew the families. They knew the students. And none of the boys reported it. In another town north, another state north, there were 3 boys. They'd been interacting with someone through the web. Very similar situation. They thought they were sending XYZ movies to this cute girl who was going to send them ABC videos. They send their XYZs, then it turns out, real life, oh, actually, I'm this man, you know me, and you're going to have sex with me, or I'm going to make these videos live. 2 boys were raped. The third, the father just happened to notice, he was looking over his shoulder, and he looked down at the screen of the computer, and he saw something that looked very weird in the instant message window, and he goes, what is that? And then his son starts to hem and haw, and then out comes the story of what had happened. And thank goodness, literally, that he told his father. So the father calls the police and said, hey, my son's being harassed. These images are up. He's threatening, if he doesn't, it's blackmail. If he doesn't have sex with my son, then. So the police logged in immediately, and within just a few hours, he's incarcerated and in jail. But the other 2 boys, they never said a word. And this other 3rd boy would have never said anything. It was because his father just happened to see. So when it comes to relationships, that person that your child is texting to or emailing, usually they don't email, it's usually instant message and texting. You want to make sure those are healthy and that there's not so much drama, and there's for sure not pornography images. So to help kind of set a framework for that, you're thinking about with whom is my child connecting, so who's that contact on the other end? What type of content is he viewing, and what type of content is she sharing, and then what kind of conduct is going on between the 2. So is it ethical and is it responsible? And helping set that framework with our kids helps set them up for success for lifelong healthy relationships, not just the ones on the web, but lifelong. So then the second R in digitaling your interactions is reputation. And this is one area, there's a lot of parents asleep at the wheel here. When we were kids, we were thinking kids are kids, you do stupid stuff, and then you get over it, and then you go to college, or you get a new start, or whatever, you can rebrand. But it's not that way for our own children. What they do on the web now is going to follow them forever, unless they change their name and their email addresses and every connection that points to them. So helping our students and our children recognize they have the potential to create a reputation that's an asset rather than a liability. They also have the opportunity to completely ruin their opportunities for many opportunities by what they post, with whom they communicate, and what they post above. So I have 2 quick stories to illustrate. They're both college freshmen. They're both true stories. One was a young man who had a baseball scholarship his freshman year. He went to the team he had been wanting to go all of his high school years. He has a scholarship. He goes to a party his freshman year of college. Many kids will party and many will drink their freshman year of college. So he's got a drink in one hand. Somebody snaps an image. Well, part of his contract was that he would not do anything illegal. Well, underage drinking is illegal. Somebody on the team saw it, team leadership, and he lost his scholarship, and they kicked him off of the team. That was over an image of alcohol when he was underage. And you can't just switch baseball teams. You can't just say, oh, oops, next time maybe I'll go play ball on this team here, this collegiate team. It doesn't work that way. You can't just, switch teams. The second was actually my son's roommate, and it's a positive story. He had a blog that was very successful and widely followed in high school. He was careful what he posted. He made sure it was valid. He could back up the arguments that he was presenting or sharing. And he had someone in the industry come to him and say, hey, we want you in this field. We'll give you we'll fund your tuition and all of your expenses for college if you stay in this field. So literally, they found him and provided him all the funds he needed for college because of what he had blogged and what he had posted online and his reputation. So there are tremendous opportunities on both sides of the scale. I'm going to throw in one last one. One of my friends, she's recently out of college now, but her job, literally in college at an expensive private university, was to friend, literally, the students who would come to go through the tour. You know how your junior year, you'll take your kids and they'll visit several colleges. Well, that cute young person who is going to give you a tour of the school is going to say, hey, friend me on Facebook and I'll tell you what's going on, and let's keep in touch. It'll be so fun to have you come to this college. Her job literally was then to log onto Facebook, and she had a form, and she had places that she had to fill in information about the types of images, the types of relationships, the types of language, and she knew as filling it out that there would be many students not considered because of their online reputation. So helping kids recognize, privacy is not on the web. So if If you want to have a little private note, then put it in a piece of paper and send it via, across the room, but it's not going to happen through the web. There's an excellent video. You can get to it from our website on our blog, but you can also find it on YouTube. It's called Digital Dossier. And it was done by the Berkman Center, and it walks through how we create a reputation, all the little tiny footprints and the places where we touch the web, and how it sticks to us across our life, and even post-mortem after we pass away, still what's going on in the digital space. So when we talk about inappropriate content and contact, some statistics that are helpful for you is that 7% of 12 to 14-year-olds, and this is the riskiest time period for sexting images when we're talking about relationships, that they will be nude. So 7%, 7 out of 100, 12 to 13-year-olds will send an image like this, or they were asked to send an image. And 1/3 of the teens who had met with a claim to eventually have relationships with someone they had met online. So what's happening is people will be asked to send something, and I have a daughter in middle school, and I'm surprised already that she's had friends who have received sexted images. They're pretty horrified. A 13-year-old girl is usually not pretty too excited to see somebody's private parts on her phone, especially when she has friends around. It gets to be pretty traumatic, and besides the fact that it's traumatic, it's also illegal. So if her phone is picked up, if she moves that image forward somewhere, she can be part of child distribution charges. So really helping kids recognize really clearly how to respect their own personal image, their own body, and also to respect that something should not be sent digitally or viewed digitally or shared digitally is an important part of our role now as adults. So some of the challenges to safety with this, the digital environment, is the inappropriate content. So there's violence issues, serious violence issues. The pornography is pervasive and it's becoming mainstream, and many times it's acceptable. It's astounding to me how many kids have, really distracting issues and feel traumatized by some of the things they have viewed through pornography. But there's not a lot of support structure because as a culture we haven't quite grappled with, well, how does this fit in with free speech, and is it really safe or is it unsafe? And we miss the boat that it's never healthy and it's never well for children to be exposed to this type of content. And my personal feeling, it's never healthy and well for relationships, even for adults. And the other things that you have to worry about in the digital space are also self-destructive behaviors like anorexia, cutting, hate speech. Those are all things that need to be addressed specifically. And at home, I use my filters to create that, that line in the sand, so that my kids know, okay, well, I know I can probably get around filters sometime, or I can view this at someone else's house, but I know where mom stands on these topics. And she's drawn the line in that sand that it's not ever okay for these types of unhealthy media to be ingested or to be produced and shared. So I think that's one of the positive roles that we need to take as a parent, is using those technology tools to really help set that line. Here's some about violence. Here's some interesting information. Elementary students, the kids who play more violent video games, become more verbally aggressive, more physically aggressive, and less helpful to others. And in 40 minutes of gaming, a youth may witness 180 acts of aggression. So you have to kind of think about Angry Birds. There's so many games where aggression is part of that culture all the time. That's part of the entertainment. I think we need to look at that for what it is. Over 50% of games offer rewards for aggression. It's not necessarily, well, for sure we know it's not healthy. Some of the realities about porn and kids through the web. Teen boys report that they use pornography for sex education. Well, what we know from the porn industry is that they are not producing a long list of successful long-term marriages out of their industry. They're not producing a series of women who've been in the industry or men who've been in the industry that now are mainstreamed into successful careers that are healthy and well. There's not this big giant association of porn industry successful people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. So many girls, so here's a piece of research too. Many girls say they worry about how they look because of the standard set by porn. So 2/3 of divorce lawyers say the internet or pornography played a significant role in the divorces they've handled. So 2 out of 3 divorce lawyers say that the internet has played a significant role. So just that on its own is enough to say this is something that needs to be addressed with verbally and not through, sometimes we want our kids to learn things through osmosis. Well, this is not the topic for osmosis. And seeing pornography as a sex education vehicle is completely unhealthy and will not promote long-term sustainable relationships that are pleasurable for both the man and the woman. I think probably one of the most damaging pieces that pornography does for children is that it commodifies sex. And this part of the web industry, I think, has been the most significant to impact that of commodifying sex. And we want our kids to have very healthy sexual relationships that are older, when they are committed, when they are married, when it's a healthy lifestyle, and they're not going to get that through the porn industry. So we have to help our kids with resiliency strategies. They're going to bump into things that literally traumatize them, things that they see on the web. And we want them to see us as a sounding board, help them to process that. When they bump into something, and we want them to come to us, and we don't want to go, we're going to lock it down and we're getting rid of the internet and get rid of the cell phone. That's not what they need. They need to know how to live in this day and age and choose healthy media, choose healthy choices, and build healthy relationships. And that doesn't happen by accident, and it doesn't happen as a steady upward stream. It's going to take, like every other skill that he had to learn, falling down, bumping into bad content, and the process of having a supportive, helpful parent with whom they can be honest is going to make a substantial difference. So we can also do some things that are helpful by managing their privacy and their settings, looking at the types of games and social networking sites and file sharing sites that they're participating in, and really setting those to as private as you can, locking them down as much as you can so that you are selecting the audience that's going to communicate with them and view content from them. Also, we want them to learn how to secure their data and their devices. So we can be as nice as we want on the web, but if we don't recognize some of these skills that we need to have on our own equipment, then we're part of a security problem. So if we're clicking on links, and the porn industry is famous for creating security problems and opening your computer to all sorts of exposure risks because you've clicked on a link or you're viewing something that then has malicious code. It's also important that we help to manage that exposure. So when they bumped into things, ideally you've got a filter on that's going to say, oh, you've crossed, you're into something that's been that's forbidden for some reason or the other. Now the goal at that moment is not to go, oh no, where'd you go? Bark, 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 trouble, trouble, trouble. But, oh, what were you looking for, something specific? Is there someplace you need to go that now I can help you get into? If it becomes just an interaction, I think one of the reasons kids learn so well often using a computer is because if they hit the wrong button, it just goes beep. It never goes beep, beep, beep. I told you already 500 beeps ago. Just every time something happens, it's just that one little beep. And as a parent, this is one place where we want to try our very hardest not to become the hysterical or the emotional or the drama. We want to be the place where we're sending a very consistent message, so when something comes back and is harmful for kids, they come to us and they know we're not going to turn into the It's hard. It's hard as a parent. Trust me, I had children. I recognize. In doing this, we help teach our kids how to react to when they come up to hurtful content. So we don't want them to feel like they have to fall apart because they've seen horrible things, or if they chose, on purpose to see horrible things. We want them to know that they can choose better media, and if they're having issues with pornography, getting a counselor early, very early in the process is so much better than thinking, oh, they'll just grow out of it, or it won't be an issue next year when whatever else happens. But address it for what it is. If it's a disorder and it's disrupting their life, professional help is recommended early, and be part of the positive solution. Give them that confidence that they don't have to define their life by being somebody who's going to porn to seek for that type of stimuli. They can come out of it. And pornography is so pervasive now that almost every family is either dealing it within their immediate family, or they know someone very well and are close to them and love them, and they're dealing with it. So I think we can all be a better network of support for each other and not feel like it's the forbidden topic that nobody wants to talk about. We can just, poke a hole in that bubble. Every family is going to have to deal with it in some way or the other. So how does this play out in schools? Schools are, they're faced with dealing with the culture and the climate. So what kids have viewed during lunch, what they've communicated with their cell phones, what they've viewed through their Facebook posts, that all plays out in the climate and the digital climate at school. And how can we be a better support and be better at preventing, detecting, intervening, and then responding when something goes wrong in the digital space is one of our charges as teachers in this generation. So iKeepSafe created Generation Safe. It's a service, it's software as a service, sorry, having a brain cramp, software as a service where it helps you to get your team together to school, your offline team, so real life people ready and prepared to deal with the online environment. So you gather your team across platforms, so you have your school counselors, the school resource officer, the principal and vice principal, your network manager, your school nurse, your media or digital literacy teacher. You get together this core team, and then you do a self-assessment, and we help you ask the right questions of the right people. And in the process, you find out, you reduce your worries about I worry about that I don't know what I don't know. And the assessment will walk you through multiple series of questions around prevention, about policies, about detection, intervention, strategies at your own school, where you can quantify and report on a scale from bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, and you can track your progress over the course of several years, and you have a way to quantify what you're doing as a school. So it helps you with your own prevention, detection, intervention, and your post-incident response. It also has professional development, so we'll come to a school, we'll work with the teachers, we'll work with the faculty, and then we'll also work with the principals. One of the things that was heartbreaking for us was watching the number of schools who were sued because of how they've responded to something in the digital space, or even worse, principal and other educators who are arrested for child pornography or child distribution because they're handling one of these situations where a student has images of another student that are pornographic on their phone, and now this teacher is arrested because they've mismanaged how they move that data. So we created the incident response tool with a flow chart, and we took a legal team of defense attorneys, prosecuting and investigating law officers, put them in a room, and we had a legal academic, Dr. Mary Leary, and they walked through a whole series of case scenarios of different types of cases. And we got their thinking on what needs to happen first, second, and third. There's this magical time, the first 10 to 15 to 30 minutes after you find out that something's gone on in the digital space, how you gather the data, how you preserve that data, the questions that you ask is going to set that case up from now until forever. If you ask the best questions, you'll have the best outcome. So if you ask questions like, why did you send that image? To whom did you send it? How many people did you think would see it? What did you think would happen when they saw it? You start asking questions like this, you establish intent. And our laws in the U.S. are formed, many of them, around intent. So if you ask these questions of the students, the victim, the perpetrator, and the bystanders, if you ask the best questions, you're going to minimize risk for the students, and you also minimize risk for the schools. And there have been a string of schools who are sued by parents who are frustrated with schools and how they disciplined over some really unpleasant digital interactions, either between a student and teachers or between two students. And it's tragic to see what happens in the courts because schools are sued for doing too much, meaning they've infringed on free speech, and they're sued for doing too little. They didn't intervene early enough on a cyberbullying case and there was a suicide, or they're sued for Fourth Amendment and privacy issues. And they're always sued because there's either someone at the top who didn't recognize how to preserve the data and how to move it and how to gather the best information so that it can be used again and it's not contaminated. and the others because they didn't have a consistent plan between the school systems, and it looked like there was a capricious act of discipline when actually there can be a unified approach between districts, between schools in a district, where there is consistency and nobody's really surprised. Those schools are so much better protected from civil lawsuits because everyone understands the use policies. There's a plan in place. You've got your e-safety team who's doing the 360 assessment, or you have a team of educators who are focused on this space, who are ready to respond and include a new responsible use policy on some new product or device or whatever it is that's now floating through the school where you want to have some sort of conversation about it. If everyone understands it and it's referred to and it's repeated, then it's very easy to say, well, I followed these protocols and I followed this flow chart to make sure I save the evidence, I've done a dual investigation, I have a positive relationship with my law enforcement, this is how we work together, this is the teamwork, and here's the report, and here's how I've saved it on my own network so I don't worry about privacy issues. Those schools are in great shape. It's the schools where you have a principal, and really principals are winging this because you think it'd be just the same. So if here's my phone, if this were alcohol or this were pot or a weapon and I bring it to school, every teacher knows what to do. It's a no-brainer. But if it's an image on a smartphone while it's running, and it's not my children here on my iPhone, but it's child pornography, where I get that image, how I search for it, and how I save it either puts me at risk or it reduces risk and can increase the positive outcomes. And then the one piece we haven't talked about also for educators, there's this opportunity for detection that we've never had. So we can actually view and see the kids struggling with addiction. We can see the kids who are struggling with sexual abuse. We can see the kids who are thinking about suicide, and we can identify the kids who are anorexic or cutting because they're posting about it. They post with their friends. Most of their friends know about it. When you look at the cases where there was a school shooting or violence, almost always, literally, there is always people who knew in the digital space. But we hadn't created this culture where if I know, then I know where to go to school to report it. We haven't done that yet, especially in the digital space when we have these opportunities. So part of the Generation Safe is helping schools to recognize they can put that system in place so that there is a way for bystanders to become upstanders. They can be engaged. One of the challenges about the web, particularly video, is that from my cell phone right here, I can take a very high quality 8 megs of video. I can send it up instantly. Now it's on YouTube. I can make it public, and what used to be a bullying incident between only a few people who could see it, or maybe a lunchroom that could see it, now it can be everyone in the school. Now it can be everyone in the city. Now it can be everyone in the world who's connected to high-speed internet can see that bullying incident. So for us to do nothing means we are allowing kids to become desensitized to bullying or to these types of images because we're doing nothing. So by doing nothing, we're saying, well, it's just going to happen. It's normal. But when you empower youth and help them to recognize, no, not everybody's cyberbullied. Not everybody has to watch and do nothing when they see harassment or bullying, or when you see these types of images that are going back and forth that are illegal. But we have to have a way for kids to engage with us, and they need to know that there is a network of support for them, and we are there for them. And schools can have offline teams that feel prepared and ready. So Generation Safe, it's generationsafe.ikeepsafe.org is the website, and you can go to our website, which is iKeepSafe.org, and you'll find lots of content, lots and lots for schools that they can use. And one of the things I'm very excited about that we launched on the 15th is the iKeep Current Newsfeed. And the iKeep Current Newsfeed will help you as an educator and help schools to continually keep this dialogue fresh and open about the digital space. Because in today's world, we can't fully engage with economic opportunities and academic opportunities if we're not full digital citizens. And we can't enjoy the best of the web if we don't have the control and the self-discipline and the resiliency skills to choose the best parts of the web. And it's easy for young people to have their lives whittled away into gaming and pornography addictions without some support and help. And even with support and help, sometimes they need professional help. And that's when it's good to recognize Every family is going to deal with some piece of this, and it's better for us as schools and for as parents to recognize we can be more supportive, we can talk about it more, we can throw it out, we can ask other families what's working for you, and we can ask other educators what's working in your schools. So that is the end of my structured webcast, my first live webcast, by the way. That's a little unnerving. So I'm happy to take any questions from anybody who's out there. If you want to find me on Twitter, it's Marsali H, M-A-R-S-A-L-I-H, or the company twit is iKeepSafe. So you can go to iKeepSafe, or it's Marsali H. Are there any questions from educators or families? And I'm assuming I would see it here in the Facebook chat. Nope, I'm not seeing anything. If you're a teacher, an educator, and interested in having Generation Safe come to your school, you can contact us at iKeepSafe.org. You can also contact us at generationsafe.ikeepsafe.org. And if you'd like to sign up for the free weekly curricula, parent message, and digital citizenship professional development, it's ikeepcurrent.org. So it's ikeepcurrent.org, and you'll find us, and the live content will be starting out on the 15th. So thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be a part of helping to shine the light on pornography and looking at it very honestly, that it has a negative impact on children and it has a negative impact on relationships. And I think we can be brave adults and recognize it for what it is and help kids to be resilient. Thank you.